Okay, let's get into this. We tackle a lot of heavy subjects on the show, complex systems, history, tech trends. But
Today's different.
today we are walking straight into a nightmare. We're looking at a place that, on paper, was known as St. Jude's Asylum, a rehabilitation center.
Sounds clinical, doesn't it? A bit dusty, but
Normal. Right. But if you talk to any of the locals, or at least the ones who are still willing to remember, they don't call it St. Jude's.
no. They call it the echo chamber.
The echo chamber. Just the name itself is deeply unsettling. And the reason for that nickname is, well, it's disturbing.
The legend goes that any screams that went inside those brick walls, they never came out.
Not as sound, anyway. Not as anything human.
It's a fascinating, if chilling, concept. The idea that a building can be a physical trap, not just for people, but for agony itself.
Sure.
What's really crucial here is that our deep dive today isn't based on vague folklore.
No third-hand ghost stories.
Exactly. We are analyzing a very specific, and I have to say harrowing, firsthand account.
Right. We have a written narrative and a matching audio transcript from a source who claims to be a survivor of this place. They went in, and more importantly, they claim they didn't exactly come out whole.
So that's the mission today.
Yeah. We're going to walk through this testimony step by step. We want to analyze the sensory details, deconstruct this entity they describe, and really try to understand the psychological aftermath.
And to really get the narrative arc, we have to start with the motive. I mean, why would you go into a place like that?
And the narrator tells us straight up, it was a dare. A stupid juvenile need to prove the legends wrong.
Which is the classic setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go in to debunk the myth.
And the myth turns around and proves you wrong. The source even says they didn't realize the legends were actually warning signs. So let's talk about the entry. They get to the asylum and the fence is easy. Too easy.
That immediately stood out to me.
Yeah.
Usually in these urban exploration logs, the struggle is getting in. You know, you've got security, high fences, boarded up windows.
Yeah.
But here, the source describes the fence as suspiciously easy to hop, and a side door was just rusted open.
Yeah, they said it felt like the asylum was inviting them in.
And that personification is such a critical psychological shift.
Yeah.
It changes the building from a passive, abandoned structure into an active predator.
Like a trap.
Exactly. Think of a pitcher plant. The entry is always the easiest part because the organism wants the prey inside. The narrator is subconsciously picking up on a trap mechanism before they even step inside.
That makes it so much worse. It's not just abandoned, it's hungry. And the moment they step across that threshold, the description of the atmosphere it changes instantly.
Like the sensory input shifts completely.
The smell, that's the part that really got me. They don't just say it smelled old, they said the air tasted metallic.
Specifically like old copper or dried blood.
Yeah.
That detail tasting the air is so powerful. But let's look at the physiology of that for a second. When you enter a high-stress state, your body floods with adrenaline. This can actually alter the chemistry of your saliva and create a metallic taste.
So they might be tasting the environment, or they might be tasting their own fear response kicking in.
It's a feedback loop. The place smells like decay, which triggers the fear, which enhances that taste of blood in your own mouth. The narrator says they could feel it in their lungs too, cold and heavy. It's an immediate physical invasion.
And then the flashlight comes on, and here's where it gets really interesting visually. They described dust motes hanging in the air, but not just floating.
No, the source says it was as if time itself had stopped holding its breath in here 30 years ago.
It's such a poetic, terrifying image, a moment of agony just frozen, and they see details that back this up. Half-finished meals on plates, open patient files.
It implies people didn't pack up and leave, they vanished.
Right. It suggests what you might call a catastrophe model of abandonment. You know, if a place closes down normally, there are boxes, empty shelves. Half-eaten food implies an event that was sudden, overwhelming.
The source puts it perfectly. Everything was frozen in a moment of agony. It just sets the stakes so high.
So the narrator's inside, the air tastes like blood, the dust is frozen in time, and then they see the wheelchair.
Ah, the wheelchair. This is where the narrative shifts from just environmental horror to active threat.
Because it's not just a piece of medical equipment in a hallway. The placement is what's terrifying.
It was facing the door.
Yes, waiting for a guest. The narrator says they felt it was waiting for me. It's that personification again, an inanimate object, positioned with intent.
And that's paired with the sound, or I guess the lack of it. The source describes the silence as heavy, that it pressed against eardrums.
A silence waiting to be broken. I love that description, even though it terrifies me. It means the silence isn't an absence of noise, it's a presence. It has weight.
That sensation is actually real. In anechoic chambers, places that absorb all sound, your brain kind of panics. It cranks up the game on your internal sensors and you start to feel the pressure of the air itself. The narrator is interpreting that pressure as a threat.
It creates this incredible tension. You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So the narrator keeps going deeper in, past these old offices, and they find the stairs.
Down to the basement, the isolation wards.
Of course it has to be the basement. Why is it always the basement?
It's the archetype of the descent, isn't it? Going underground triggers this primal claustrophobia. And physically, the environment changes again. The temperature drops.
They mentioned their breath started fogging, like breathing in winter.
So we're moving from just stale, heavy air to something unnatural.
And here's a detail that I think is one of the most chilling parts of the entire account. The graffiti.
Yes, this is a crucial observation. This is the real pivot point of the story for me.
The narrator notices that as they go down the stairs, the graffiti stops.
Think about what graffiti represents in a place like this. It's a flag. It says, "I was here." It's a sign of human dominion over a ruined space. Teenagers, vandals, they go where they feel safe enough to stand still and paint.
But here, it just ends.
Right before the basement. The source says, even the vandals were too scared to go this deep. It signals a transition. We are crossing a line from just an abandoned building to a place that triggers a primal fear response in everyone.
That is such a good point. The absence of the vandalism is scarier than the vandalism itself. It means the humans stopped coming here. So now it's just the narrator, a dripping sound, and this feeling of eyes.
Sensory deprivation kicks in. The world just shrinks down to those immediate threats.
So they reach the bottom, and there's a heavy iron door stenciled on it, observation room 4.
This is the destination. The narrator describes a small viewing, window-thick, reinforced glass, just covered in grime. And despite everything, they have to look.
The curiosity that kills the cat, they wipe the grime off with their sleeve, press their face against the glass.
And they shine the light into what they call the padded darkness.
And at first, empty. Just torn padding hanging from the walls like flayed skin.
Which is already a gruesome image. It evokes torture right away. But notice the sequence. The narrator looks, sees nothing, and maybe relaxes for just a microsecond. They turn around, check the hall behind them. But when they turn back to the window,
The Helms isn't empty anymore.
that's the moment. Something had changed.
It's there, crouched in the corner. Let's talk about this thing. The description is so specific. It's not a ghost, it's not a shadow, it's physical.
Absolutely. The narrator describes skin the color of a bruise.
Bruise-colored skin. What does that even imply?
It suggests trauma. A bruise is old blood pooled under the skin. It implies the tissue is damaged, deoxygenated, dead but present. And it's facing away, completely still.
Still. Deadly. That's how they put it. The narrator just freezes, and then the movement starts.
And this is where the body horror really kicks in. It's not a jump scare. It's this slow, agonizing unfolding. They watch its head start to turn.
But the neck. The source says the neck twisted way too far. Way beyond what a human neck is supposed to do.
And that detail triggers the uncanny valley response.
Yeah.
When we see something that looks human but moves in a way that defies anatomy, it just screams wrongness to our brains.
And then the face turns. Or as the source puts it, not a face. A nightmare.
No eyes.
Just empty weeping sockets and a mouth that opens unnaturally wide.
Screaming without a voice. That line brings us full circle to the whole legend of the echo chamber. The screams go in, but they don't come out as sound. Here's an entity that is a physical embodiment of that exact concept.
Which is somehow so much worse than actually hearing a scream. It's a cognitive disconnect.
Precisely. It's a silent broadcast of pure agony. The brain expects a roar and gets nothing.
Yeah.
And the narrator just breaks. They can't even scream. They just run.
Blind panic. The flight response takes over completely.
But they aren't alone. And this chase, the sound changes. Upstairs was silent. Now there's a sound, but it's not footsteps.
No, it's a slithering, a wet, dragging sound against the concrete.
That dehumanizes it even more. Humans run. Footsteps are rhythmic. A wet slither implies something broken or something not human.
And it's fast. The narrator feels the cold of it getting closer. Not just cold air, but an absence of heat.
Like an entropy sink. It's an active void chasing them.
They scramble up the stairs, hands raw on the rusted railings, and burst out the door into the damp grass. Moonlight, they made it.
Physically, yes. They escaped the building. But the source makes a very specific point. They refused to look back. They knew if they did, they would see it in the doorway, watching.
And this is where the story usually ends, right? I got away, the end. But here's where it gets really dark. The aftermath.
This is the psychological toll. The narrator says they tried to rationalize it. A hallucination, a trick of the light.
Tried to build a life on that lie. But the echo chamber, it doesn't let go. The source describes long-term symptoms. Static in the brain. Shadows in their peripheral vision.
It's a classic description of PTSD, but with this supernatural overlay. The trauma becomes a permanent filter. The static is that lingering connection to the silence in the basement.
And then there's the mirror. This is the part that haunts me. The narrator says that sometimes when they look in a mirror in a dark room, they don't see themselves.
I see those empty sockets staring back at me.
They see the entity in their own reflection.
This raises a terrifying possibility about what the echo chamber really is. The narrator comes to a conclusion that just deconstructs their own existence. They believe the asylum doesn't just hold screams.
It holds souls.
And they believe their soul is still down there.
That's the nightmare. They're physically here telling the story, but metaphysically, they believe they're still in observation room 4, still wiping the grime from the glass.
It means the person walking around the real world is just a shell.
A shell that's slowly being filled by the thing from the basement. And that brings us to the final major twist of the source material, the perspective shift.
Right. Up until the very end, the narrator is telling us what happened to them. But in the last few lines, they start talking to us.
It breaks the fourth wall completely. The narrator asks, "Is it you? Are you looking into the darkness?"
They flip the script. They suggest that we, the listeners, are the ones now standing outside the glass.
It's what you'd call a mimetic hazard in fiction. The idea that the story itself is dangerous. By hearing it, you are now engaging with it, and the warning is severe.
It sees the light in your eyes, and it wants it.
It wants to turn your vision into a void, just like mine.
It's a contagion. The knowledge itself, the act of witnessing the story, makes you part of the cycle. And the narrator ends with this greeting and threat all in one. Welcome to the echo chamber. I'll see you in the dark.
I see you.
It leaves you with the distinct feeling that you haven't just heard a story, but that you've been observed. It dissolves the safety of the medium. You aren't just listening to a deep dive anymore. You're standing at the window.
So what does this all mean? We started with a dare, and we ended up with this philosophical trap where the narrator believes they're a hollow shell, and the real them is eternally staring out of a dirty window.
I think the core takeaway here is about the permanence of trauma, just seen through this horror lens. The source is telling us that some places don't have exits. You can walk out the door, but if the experience was horrific enough, you never really leave.
That metallic taste in the air never really goes away.
Exactly. And the thing, once seen, becomes a permanent part of you. The static in the brain is that lingering connection. You can't unsee the empty sockets.
So it redefines what haunted means. It's not the building that's haunted anymore. It's the person.
The person becomes the echo chamber. And now, by sharing the story, by asking, are you looking into the darkness? They're extending that haunted space to include us.
Well, on that comforting note, maybe check your mirrors tonight. Or maybe you don't. Maybe just keep the lights on.
And if you see a wheelchair facing a door,
Yeah.
maybe you don't go in.
Solid advice. We've unpacked the metallic air, the frozen dust, the weeping sockets, and the soul trapped behind the glass. St. Jude's Asylum. The echo chamber.
A place that sees you.
A huge thank you to the source material for this terrifying journey. It's a reminder that some legends are warning signs for a reason.
Indeed. Sometimes the monster is just a story, but sometimes the story is the monster.
And for everyone listening, the narrator left us with one final thought. They said, "I'll see you in the dark." So my question to you is this. If you look into the darkness tonight, are you sure you're the only one looking back?
Or is someone else pressing their face against the glass from the other side, just waiting for you to notice?
Thanks for diving deep with us. Stay curious, stay safe, and stay out of abandoned basements. We'll catch you on the next one.